Hi, you're watching Video 101. What does a video cost? I'm John Crossman. Today's clip, we're in post-production, the third phase of the video process, and we are talking about graphics and animation. And my main point is that you shouldn't be scared of either one. Now, when I say graphics and animation, for graphics I'm talking about, name supers that identify a person, or location graphics, anything that's maybe text-based. Those are pretty simple graphics to do. The most time-consuming part of graphics is coming up with a style. Now, if your company has a style guide, there should be either video style things in there or something that the editor can use to create a compatible style in your video to what you're doing in print. So don't be too worried about graphics. I was a pretty early adopter of doing graphics, and I actually owe that to the partners in my first post-production business. They thought graphics was going to be a huge thing in the future, which it is and was. And so we purchased a graphics machine and basically a computer that did video graphics. And I took art lessons and learned how to be. I'd always kind of been a drawer, but understanding light and shading and all that stuff, I took classes so that I could create better graphics. And that started with this may not mean anything to you, but 8-bit paint, like Nintendo kind of paint, and pretty quickly moved up to much higher res. And of course today resolution is all over the place and very high, and you have vector graphics and stuff that we didn't even dream about back then. But so I've always done the graphics for my videos, and I've done many extremely graphic intensive videos. And once the most time consuming thing really is creating your style, how you're going to do bullet points, what fonts you're going to use, how you're going to change colors, what your backgrounds are going to be. Once you have that all decided with the producer or client, then the rest of it really just becomes changing text as you need to change text, and it's pretty straightforward. So don't let that spook you. Animation can be a little more complicated in the fact that you really have no way of knowing by looking at it how long something is going to take. Over my career, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of graphic intensive projects. And the thing about animation is it's tricky to know really how long something is going to take. Here's an example of something that looks pretty simple, and it took all day to set up. When it actually renders out, it probably rendered out in a couple of minutes, because the actual effect is not very complex at all. But the fact that I've got hundreds and hundreds of lines to draw, that's what took all day to set up. Actually took about 10 hours to set all that up. Whereas this looks very complex, has smoke and fog and whatever, and lighting and lots of 3D in it. And this whole thing was done in roughly a day. And so it's hard to tell, and that's why you need to, in pre-production, if you know who's going to be editing your piece, talk to them about animation. If there are effects or animations or graphics that you like, you can show those to them, and they can tell you how long roughly it's going to take. That being said, I'm surprised all the time by how long some things take versus other things. Again, like the 3D example I just gave you. 3D used to be a big deal. To me, it still is a big deal, but now it's so much easier to do and so much quicker to do. It isn't even funny. And I may tell you that, I think that would just take a couple hours. Let's do it, and it ends up taking all day. And other things, to be honest, there's few things that I would guess totally the wrong way, like this is going to take all day and it takes a half an hour. But it's not unusual to say, oh, this will take a half hour, and it takes 3 hours. But that being said, animation is a great way to tell a story, great way to deliver information, so don't be spooked. But it will impact how much you have, will impact the final cost, and it impacts that through time. This graphic is part of 18 minutes of video that I did, three or four different videos, and they were all animated. They were all graphics. And to keep the visual interest, there's always something moving, there's always something going on, and so that just takes time to plan that all out and create that and get it all in your piece. So that's graphics and animation. Nothing to be really scared of. It can be a factor in the cost of the video, but until you really know what you want, you shouldn't jump to conclusions that that it's going to price your video out of your reach. Here's an example of a video. It was all animated, a combination of animation and graphics. If you remember my definition of graphics as kind of being text-based, this had quite a few text-based. It used stock footage, which I purchased, and but there was some, what I would call animation in it too. This was done in about 3 days, so 3.5 minutes, 3 days. There's actually a long version of this project and a short version, shared things. So for about $3,200, this client got 2 different versions of the video, completely animated, file footage and graphics. And so I think that was a pretty efficient project for what they got. So that is graphics and animation. Don't let it scare you, but just be aware that it does impact the cost of your video. My name is John Crossman. You're watching Video 101. Thanks for watching.